Hi guys, welcome back to SSA Athletics. I'm Adam McCarthy, and in today's video, or today's live stream, shall we say, we're going to be talking about super spikes. Now, sorry guys that this one's a wee bit late. Things happened and it kind of got in the way. But anyway, sorry about it at the very last moment. Here we are, we're going to discuss super spikes. Now, this was voted on by a poll in our community section about what topics people wanted to hear. And this is one of the topics. Super spikes have taken over the field, so to speak. They've become the default thing to where if you want to get your performance, if you want to be elite. But why is that? Put it through simply, there's been many innovations recently. Whereas beforehand, the type of spikes you wear wouldn't have had a significant advantage compared to the other members in the field because of certain factors like, because everyone's spike was very similar, to be honest. Now the spikes, on the other hand, are so much more advantaged, anywhere between potentially 2 to 4% per each stride length. If we were to compare the super shoes, that's a lot. Now, it's unlikely to give us 2% per shoe, so to speak. But when we think about that per each stride, that you're talking about potentially over a second sometimes. This is highly important to know. So why are we going to look at super spikes? Why do you need super spikes? Do I need a super spike? And what is it best to look for in your super spikes? Guys, let me know if you're getting value from this live stream. Smash subscribe. Check out the YouTube, the other socials like our Instagram and our Facebook pages to find out more information about the club. Alternatively, you can look at our website, SSA Athletics. Now, for those who don't know what SSA Athletics is, SSA, Southend-on-Sea Athletics, is an athletics club based in the city of Southend. That's still so weird. It only just became a city recently. So, like, just for me calling it a city sounds weird. I still expect it to be like a really large town. But anyway, we train children in that part of the world. So if you are in that Southend area, come check us out and we could train your children for you. So going back onto our super, what are super spikes? What do they look like? Nike super spikes? Oh, the screen went really weird then. What happened there? Doesn't matter. Carry on. If we look at something like the Nike super spikes compared to something like Adidas, there's very much a difference in how they look. How they perform will also be slightly different depending on the spike. Now, the first super spikes to come out were the Nike spikes, or Nike set of spikes. They have a Nike Max Fly, Super Flies, that kind of thing. Now, these spikes are different. They have a carbon fiber plate, and the carbon fiber technology was based upon the marathon shoes. These marathon shoes were taking over marathon and road running and producing, or helping to produce, let's say, crazy fast times. Now, what you generally will have is a carbon fiber plate within the actual shoe itself. And that effectively allows the shoe to be stiffer. Therefore, you're able to get more power per each step. But also, it allows for greater energy return. That energy return allows for energy efficiency. Therefore, you run faster using less energy. Therefore, you're less tired. Therefore, you can put more energy and more power into each stride. Now, what Nike had done is they put like a little bubble in their shoes. And if you want to look at the Nike shoes in particular, we do have a video about that, which you can see down below in the description, discussing about the Nike Super Spike. That little bubble actually helps with that energy return. They were the first spikes, and they used carbon fiber. To allow room for the carbon fiber, they had to make the front of the shoe wider. And as a result, if we look at the differences between normal spikes, normal sprint spikes, for instance, and the super spikes, the normal if you like, philosophy about spikes is that the sprint spikes don't need a heel, plate because you're running on effectively the front, the forefoot, your balls of your feet. Now, with the spike itself, the modern day spikes, super spikes, in order to allow that carbon fiber plate in, they had to try and create some kind of heel. So they look more like some kind of weird in between middle distance spike, but they're not. They are a sprint spike. And they effectively help to force you onto the front of the foot where you can maximize that carbon fiber plate. Now, Nike were really the first spikes to really do this. Now, other companies like Adidas then started to jump on board. They were already testing other ways to make athletes faster. For instance, with Jeremy Warner, they put like these carbon fiber rods up through the center of his spike, near the forefoot, so that he could effectively run faster on the balls of his feet. With this, they were forced to, if you like, to produce this technology out much sooner than they would have normally done, and also add some kind of plate that didn't break Nike's copyright. So what they did instead, and by the way, when I'm talking about the carbon fiber plate technology Nike was developing was based really around about the Paralympic carbon fiber plates. If you look at Oscar Pistorius or some of the other athletes, what they developed with an Icelandic company and a US company as well is effectively blades that would make the athlete run as if they had legs. And what they noticed that the energy return was pretty great. So what if we had that in a shoe, what would be the outcome? So that's what they were thinking. Moving back from our tangent onto Adidas spikes. The Adidas spikes themselves had rods between the center, but also what they had was a plastic plate with little that moved around at the toes like so. So effectively, as you absorbed, you would come through, and it allowed your foot to go through, more flexible around the toes, but also had the rods in between the toes to make it a little bit stiffer to give you that return. Likewise, to make room for this, the toe had to be a little bit wider. So they had a very similar approach in that respect to what Nike were doing. More recently, in 2023, publicly and commercially, other companies have jumped on board. So now we're seeing companies like OnCloud, Asics. Asics had quite a few examples, actually. They had an example that was just a shoe itself without the spikes. And the idea is that you can wear it as a shoe, but also sprint on it, although whether or not it fills a niche that may or may not necessarily be important. But with their sprint spikes in particular, they've released, Asics have done something slightly different, and to a certain extent, New Balance. The actual plate on the outside of the shoe is rock solid carbon fiber hard. Their blade, not necessarily inside the actual shoe. The spike plate is the blade to many extent, and it supplements everything else that's inside the shoe, all the technology that's inside the shoe. So the idea is that you can get stiffer without necessarily having something that prevents you or having a thicker spike shoe. As a result, what we've seen is that with their shoes, they're often a lot lighter. Now, some people have different ideas of what they wanted to wear for the particular shoes. Many athletes in particular, and the theory was leading and before this, is that you had to make the shoes lighter in order to make them faster. And you notice around about 2007-ish, some companies were literally developing holes in their shoes so they can make it lighter. Because the only way to then compete with other shoes is to make the shoe lighter, because everyone's shoe is very similar. Some companies did different, like the Adidas Predators, but going into modern day, we now don't think about necessarily making the shoe lighter. If you can make the shoe lighter, fantastic. But what's the technology in the shoe to make you faster? Carbon fiber plates, for instance. This will make the shoe more bulkier. The type of foam used, yes, it might make it thicker and heavier, but if it's more responsive, you're going to get more out of it. So with that in mind, there's two really theories about what you can do. You can have the shoe lighter, or you can have the shoe with the greater technology. Asics tried to do something a bit different with their most modern spikes, in the fact that these spikes are lighter, more like a traditional spike, but still have the responsiveness of a carbon fiber plate. It's interesting. There is no right or wrong answer. It depends on preference and the type of foot you have, how you land as well. And this is all very brand new information and knowledge. There's not much science gone into this. Yes, I can rephrase that. There's not much science in terms of external science. Science takes time, and the technology does not take time. Once you've done your research paper on certain types of spikes, the chances are the next set of spikes are coming out as well. That's an important thing. When you're looking to buy a super spike, you're looking at potentially something that can either be lighter or will fit your foot, basically. These spooks, not MI5, not 9 to 5, no, these spikes, effectively, they're not very cheap either. You're talking about often around about 200 to 300 pounds, and they have a habit of not lasting very long, and the Nike ones in particular. So with the Nike ones, the bubble they have on the bottom has a habit of bursting. The Adidas ones have a habit of trying to force you out onto the outside of your foot, therefore potentially causing injury to the foot and damaging the spike along the eventually between the plate itself. So these spikes, you don't training all the time. These spikes are the ones used in competition or when you need to do speed work of some description. So with that in mind, you've got to be mindful about what spikes you buy. And the strange thing is you can't exactly go to most shops and go, yes, can I have those Asics spikes over there with a big carbon fiber plate on them, please? Because the chances are people are not going to stock them. You have to buy these online. So research before you buy, because not a lot of people can afford to buy a £200 pair of spikes all the time. Now, if you're an athlete, I've seen this many times with athletes, it's their job to do so. So even though they're not sponsored, for them, getting the carbon fiber spike plates, depending on what they need, is vital because it's their work. For a normal person, you're not going to necessarily have that money around. And if you do have that money around, good, let's get some spikes then. So I hope that information is, when in terms of buying your spikes, is valuable to you. If you feel like this is useful to you, hit that subscribe button. We're going to try and get more live streams like this out here at the moment. This is our second live stream. So if you're getting value for this, let us know. If you want a topic for us to discuss or a question you may have that you want answered, by all means, hit that in the comment section and we will try to answer that for you. We even try and answer that in this actual video itself. And if it's a really good topic, then we'll try and answer it in person or in its own video, so to speak. Sometimes the best ideas come from the comments in the section, what people want to see and what people want to hear. So now you know how much the spikes cost, what you're looking for your spikes. You're looking for the spike to fit you, and they will fit snug. So what you're finding is a lot of people are not wearing socks with their spikes, because one is when they wear the socks, they feel like it's cramping them up. So a lot of people don't like wearing socks with spikes. And that's not something new with super spikes. You find that's a general trend that's been going over since the 2010s. Usain Bolt, when he broke his world records, weren't wearing socks. So by not wearing the sock, you can wear a smaller shoe that fits your foot better. All this is personal preference, and you better have some kind of spray with you because otherwise your shoes, your very expensive shoes, are going to end up stinking. So with that in mind, we talked about how much they cost. They're very expensive. We talked about the problems with spikes. They don't often last that long. So you're thinking to yourself, what's the point spending so much money on something that does not last long at all? Put it simply, the performance benefits is what you're paying for. If you're serious about track and field athletics and you want to take it on the next stage further, then these spikes are the way forward. Now, I'm not dictating that you should buy a pair of super spikes. They are extremely expensive. And if it's something that you really like to do, then it might be something to think about, so to speak. So in terms of the super spikes and what they do, what is the information we need to know about the future of super spikes? Put it simply, no one quite knows. Super spikes are changing all the time. There's new technology going into it. There's new ideas going into it. Some ideas work, some ideas don't work. And there's no one thing, overarching theme, so to speak, dictating that this is what super spikes would do. There's hardly any external scientific research going into this. By the time we have external scientific research in, these guys have already changed the spikes they're going to make. It takes a long time to get scientific research out there, usually 2 to 3 years. And in terms of technology, we as humans change our behavior compared to technology. And as a result, we change the technology because the technology has to be based upon our behaviors. So to give you an understanding about technology changes, a lot of research about the Nintendo Wii that came out in 2011 only started then to get published and finished published around about 2019, 2020, 2018, 2017, those years. But as you guys know, if you're publishing stuff about Nintendo Wii in 2018, too late. Yes, we understand the benefits, but it's too late because we've already gone on to something else. And that's potentially what could happen with super spikes. Super spikes is a revolution in the way we're thinking, but also the way we're implementing this technology. And it's a revolution that will continue onwards. Now, my prediction and the prediction of many others is that in the next probably 5-6 years' time, all spikes will be super spikes. All spike will have some kind of plastic or carbon fiber plate or some kind of revolutionary foam that helps with propulsion off the ground, or technology that we've yet to discover or manufacture. Until that time, we're having to rely on these super duper expensive spikes. But if they become more available and people are able to buy them more, have the greater ability to buy them, then quite frankly, what will happen is that the spike prices will come down because it's not competitive to suddenly sell a spike at £200 unless you're aiming for a certain elite people, unless you can, if you like, dominate that premium market. If you cannot dominate the premium market, then you're at a loss with these spikes. If you want to manufacture these spikes and put them out wider, get them into places like Sports Direct in the UK or whatever the local sports shop is. I do realize that a lot of sports shops in certain areas don't sell track and field spikes. Luckily, in the area I am in, a lot of them do. But until that time, if you want to, we have to rely on we have to rely on either having normal spikes, which we use for training, and then a pair of super spikes we used in competition or when we're doing faster things. But when things get better, when things get cheaper, then the super spike itself is better made and is more reliable, more durable. The price will have to come down because people need to buy these, otherwise the companies will not make money. So I hope that explains super spikes and the future of super spikes. If you got anything else you want to write, let us know in the comment section below. Smash subscribe. And I'm Adam McCarthy, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.